National Grid is obliged to bring into the system all of the wind power which is going to be built over the next few years in Scotland. And quite simply, there isn't enough capacity to take that wind power onto the system, so we need a significant increase in the capacity of the system between Scotland and England. And this link will provide 2 gigawatts of that capacity in a relatively short timescale. It should be coming online around 2016. The Western Link project involves laying a cable from Scotland down into Wales and on power into England. There's some 420 kilometres of cable that needs to be laid in between 2 converter stations where the DC current through the cable is converted into AC so that it's compatible with the networks. In this case, it's such a long distance and such a lot of work that the extensive engineering feat of installing a submarine cable up to 170 metres deep through the RSC was the route chosen, because that's the most cost-effective way of installing the link that we need. This cable is constructed from cable that's insulated with polyethylene, which is quite unusual, so we will be going through a complete type registration process to ensure that it's fit for purpose and that it will last the full 40 years that we need it to last. The cable itself is quite innovative because it's a 600 kilovolt cable, and there aren't any 600 kilovolt HVDC cables like this in operation. This is a very, very significant project in relation to the capital plan. It's the largest single contract that National Grid has ever signed on to, and quite simply it will peak at around £400 million a year of expenditure at the highest point. The main works contract has been let to Siemens Prysmian, and the value of that contract is a little over £1 billion. Stakeholder engagement is absolutely essential for a project like this, and the stakeholders are very wide indeed. Starting off with obviously the regulator in terms of funding and the needs case, and then once the needs case is established, we then need to consider very carefully which route are we going to put it in, how are we going to minimise the effect on all of the local communities. Those communities have a number of different needs. For example, at sea, you have different communities of fishermen who we need to work closely with them to minimise the impact on their working life in order that we can get our essential assets installed. We've looked very carefully at what the impacts on local flora and fauna are, considered very carefully where we can route the cable to minimise the effect on the fishes, on the other animals that live in the sea, many of which could be affected by stray magnetic currents from a cable like this, so it's buried to a particular depth. With a large project like this, particularly a submarine project, which is not something that National Grid has much had to do in the past, safety by design is absolutely critical. So from the very outset, we've looked at the methods of installation which minimise the use of more risky techniques. So we're trying to minimise, for example, the amount of diving that we're doing, because commercial diving is quite a high-risk activity. This is a fantastic project. It's a great opportunity for me and for all the team who are working on it. We're all working hard together, and we are determined to bring the project in on time and on budget.